All right, so Oscars. We're diving into that today. You know, all the buzz, and you sent over this article about Cynthia Erivo, and they're teasing some special moment they have planned for her, which with Erivo, Tony, Grammy, and Emmy winner,
Yeah.
special, could be a lot of things. She's already got everyone talking with the Wicked movie, but the article is hinting at something even more, like on top of all that.
Yeah, the way they talk about it, the Oscar producers, I mean, it's all very hush-hush,
Right.
which, of course, just makes everyone speculate even more.
Totally.
Is it a performance? A special award?
Yeah.
Like, what if they flash an Elphaba's broom?
Oh my God, stop.
Some kind of grand entrance.
That would be amazing. But honestly, even without all that, just having her at the Oscars is big. The article mentioned she's performing, and so is Ariana Grande.
Oh, yeah.
And then Wicked itself got like 10 nominations.
Yeah, and it's not just acting nominations either.
Right.
Best Picture, Adapted Screenplay, even Costume Design. They're really recognizing it on every level, which, for a movie musical, is pretty impressive.
It does make you wonder, right? Like, is this Hollywood changing? Are they starting to be more open to different kinds of stories? Or is it just Wicked being, such a huge thing already, they kind of had to?
That's the question, isn't it? Are they actually getting more diverse, or is this just a one-time thing because Wicked is, Wicked?
Yeah, exactly. Like, will we see this kind of thing more in the future?
Right. What happens next year and the year after that, that's what'll tell us.
Well, no matter what, for Wicked fans, just seeing Erivo and Grande perform at the Oscars,
Oh, yeah.
huge. I can already picture Twitter melting down when they announced the song.
Oh, totally.
Speaking of melting down, though,
Yeah.
the rest of the article wasn't all, like, happy news, right? There were some other headlines that were a bit heavier.
Definitely, yeah. Like
Right.
Gene Hackman passing away, that's a
Yeah.
big loss for film.
Yeah.
He did so much, so many iconic roles. It makes you think about, like, the impact actors have,
Yeah.
the stories they bring to life.
It really does put things in perspective, doesn't it? Like, all this excitement about the Oscars, and then you remember life is fragile. We lose these legends like Hackman.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process.
It's the nature of entertainment news, I guess. You've got the highs, you've got the lows, and everything in between. Even things that seem small, like that bit about Prince William and Kate Middleton sending Meghan Markle a message about jam, of all things.
Oh, I saw
It
that.
just shows how obsessed we are with celebrities.
I know, right? That one caught my eye, too. It seems so random, but then you think, why that detail? What's the article trying to say? Does it mean anything? Like, are we that into the royal family that we're analyzing jam jars now?
Exactly. It's those little things that tell you more about, like, how the media works, how they shape the story.
That's interesting. So out of all the headlines, which one do you think is going to have the biggest impact going forward, like really change things in Hollywood?
Ooh, that's tough. But the one about Michelle Trachtenberg passing away and how that affects the Buffy reboot, that's a big one, I think. It brings up so many questions about what productions do in these situations.
It's true. It's a reminder that things can change so fast. And for Buffy, creatively, what do they even do? Like, recast the role,
Yeah.
write her out completely. She was so loved. It's a sensitive situation.
And it's not just Buffy either. It makes you think about all these reboots Hollywood's doing.
Right.
How do you stay true to the original but still make something new?
Yeah.
How do you please the fans who love the old thing
Yeah.
and bring in new people?
It's a tough balance.
It is, and this situation with Trachtenberg just adds another layer to that. I'm really curious to see how they handle it.
Me too. Speaking of Hollywood trends, we got to go back to Wicked for a sec. 10 Oscar nominations. Does this mean musicals are making a comeback? Like a full-on renaissance?
It's possible.
Yeah.
We've had all these musical biopics lately, like Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocket Man, and they did really well. So maybe Wicked's success will make studios say, hey, let's do more musicals, which would be awesome.
I love that. Seeing a story come to life with singing and dancing on the big screen, there's nothing like it. But let's be real, Wicked already had a massive fan base before the movie. Can we really expect that for every musical?
You've got a point. It was a phenomenon already, and that definitely helped it at the box office and with critics. But I think people are hungry for musicals, especially if they're done right.
Okay, so what does done right even mean? Like, what makes a movie musical work?
Well, it's a bunch of things. First, you need a good story to start with. Wicked had that, a story that pulls you in, characters you remember, and songs people already loved. Then you need actors who can really bring those characters to life, acting-wise and singing-wise.
Right, and the visuals are huge too. Costumes, sets, the dancing, it all has to work together.
Totally. You got to create a world that feels real, that makes you believe in the magic of the story. And then there's the director, the overall vision for the film, translating a stage show to the big screen.
Yeah, it's more than just picking catchy songs and pretty costumes. It's art and storytelling and technical stuff all mixed together.
Exactly.
Sounds complicated. But it seems like Wicked and Cynthia Erivo, they've got all that figured out.
For sure. And that's why everyone's so excited about her special moment at the Oscars. It's not just about her or the movie. It's about what it could mean for the future, for how Hollywood tells stories.
You know what? You're right. It's easy to get caught up in the awards themselves, the whole glamorous thing. But talking about it like this, I see there's so much more to it. Recognizing talent, celebrating creativity, and maybe even pushing the boundaries a little bit.
And that's what makes the Oscars so interesting to watch. It's not just awards being handed out. It's a reflection of where the industry is, where it's going. It tells you what stories we care about, whose voices we want to hear.
Deep stuff. Okay, so we talked about Wicked doing so well, Revo's big moment, and even losing a legend like Hackman. But there was one more headline in this article that just seemed out of place. Prince William and Kate Middleton sending a message to Meghan Markle about jam. You said before, even little things can tell us a lot about celebrity culture. What's the jam thing telling us?
Right. It shows how obsessed the media is with finding, cracks in the royal family, even if it means analyzing a jar of jam.
Like they're desperate for any drama, any little sign that things aren't perfect.
Exactly. And we eat it up, don't we? We click on those headlines every time.
That's so true. It's like, why are we so invested in this?
It's a good question to ask. Why do we care so much?
I don't know. But you're right. We should be more aware of it, what we're reading, how we're reacting.
Definitely. The media throws these little bits of information at us without context, without the whole story. We have to think for ourselves, be critical.
You're so right. It's easy to get lost in the gossip, the speculation, but we got to step back and ask, why do we care so much about these stories in the first place? What does that say about us?
Exactly. That's a great question. It all goes back to why we're even having this conversation. We're not just talking about entertainment news for fun. We're trying to understand how powerful it is, how much it affects us.
It's like, be informed, be aware, be a smart consumer of all this stuff.
That's it.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away? Like the most important thing to remember about all this entertainment news?
Great question. I think it's to be aware of the stories they're telling you. And don't just believe them blindly. Question everything. Ask yourself, who benefits from this story? Whose voice is being heard? And whose voice is missing?
Ooh, I like that. It's not just mindless gossip. It's about our culture, what we value, what's important to us.
Exactly.
And by thinking about it that way, we can be smarter about what we consume, what we let influence us.
No.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about. And it's not just Buffy. It makes you think about all these reboots Hollywood keeps doing. How do you honor the original and still make something new? You know, how do you please the old fans, but also bring in new people?
It's like a tightrope walk. And now, with Trachtenberg's passing, it's even trickier.
Absolutely. It's a whole other layer of complexity. It'll be interesting to see what they do, how they move forward. But, you know, while we're on the topic of trends, I got to bring it back to Wicked.
Yeah.
10 Oscar nominations.
Yeah.
Man. Is this like the beginning of a musical comeback?
Right.
A full-on musical renaissance?
Could be. We've had all these musical biopics, Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocket Man.
Oh, yeah.
And those were huge hits.
Maybe studios will see Wicked doing so well and think, hey, musicals are back. Let's make more.
I would love that. I mean, there's nothing like seeing a story with singing and dancing, all that energy, up on the big screen. But let's be realistic. Wicked had a massive fan base before the movie even came out. Can every musical expect that kind of success?
That's true. Wicked was already a cultural phenomenon that definitely played a role in its success.
Right.
But I think there's a real appetite for musicals out there. People want them, especially if they're done well.
Okay, so what makes a musical done well then? What's the secret sauce?
Well, it's a bunch of things. You need a good story. Wicked had that for sure. A story that grabs you, characters that stick with you, and songs people already know and love. Then you need a talented cast, people who can act and sing.
And let's not forget about the visuals. Costumes, sets, choreography. It's all part of the experience.
Oh, absolutely. It's about creating a whole world that sucks you in and makes you believe in the story, in the magic.
Right.
And then there's the director, the overall vision for the film. How do you take something from the stage and make it work on screen?
So it's a lot more than just picking some popular songs and putting people in sparkly costumes. It's art, it's storytelling, it's technical skill. It's complicated, but it seems like Wicked and Cynthia Erivo, they've nailed it.
They really have. And I think that's why there's so much excitement around her special moment at the Oscars. It's not just about her or even just Wicked. It's about what it means for the future of storytelling in Hollywood.
You know what? You're so right. It's easy to get swept up in the glitz and glam of the Oscars, but there's something deeper there. It's about recognizing talent, celebrating creativity, pushing boundaries.
And that's what makes these events so interesting. They're not just about the awards themselves. They're a reflection of the industry, of what we value as a society, the stories we choose to tell.
Okay, so we talked about Wicked, about Cynthia Erivo's big moment, about losing a legend like Gene Hackman. But there was that one other headline, the one that seemed out of place. Prince William and Kate sending Meghan a message about jam. You said before, even the little things can be revealing. What's the jam thing telling us?
Just shows you how obsessed the media is with the royal family. They're looking for any little sign of drama, of cracks in the perfect image, even if it's just a jar of jam.
It's like they're just waiting for something to go wrong.
Exactly. And we eat it up, don't we? We click on those headlines. We want the gossip.
That's true. But why? Why do we care so much?
Good question. It's something to think about.
It really is. You're right. We should be more aware. Why are we reading this? How is it affecting us?
Absolutely. We get these little bits of information, often out of context, and we need to think for ourselves, be critical.
We can't just accept everything we read. Why are we so invested in these stories? What does it say about us?
That's the question. And it goes back to why we're having this conversation. We're not just gossiping about Hollywood. We're trying to understand the power of entertainment news, how it influences us even when we don't realize it.
Be informed, be aware, be a critical consumer.
Exactly.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember? What's the most important thing to keep in mind when navigating this world of entertainment news?
Don't just passively consume. Be aware of the narratives, the stories they're presenting, and don't be afraid to question them. Ask yourself, who benefits from this story? Whose voice is being amplified? And whose voice is missing?
Ooh, that's good. It's a reminder that this isn't just mindless entertainment. It reflects our culture, what we value.
Exactly.
And by being aware of that, we can make more informed choices about what we consume, what we let influence us.
Absolutely.
That's a great point to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one. So much to think about, but why should all this Oscars stuff matter to someone who maybe isn't a huge Wicked fan? Or even that into award shows?
That's where it gets interesting. Because whether we realize it or not, the stories Hollywood tells, the people they celebrate, it all has an impact. Think about it. Wicked's success, a black woman potentially having this groundbreaking special moment.
Yeah.
Those are signal signs of what might be possible in the industry, you know?
It's like if Hollywood starts embracing more diverse stories, more voices that we haven't always heard,
Right.
does that change what other stories get told? The books we read, the shows we watch, even the conversations we have.
Exactly. It's not just about the awards themselves. It's about the bigger message.
Yeah.
And for someone who's not following every bit of entertainment news, that's what's worth paying attention to.
So it's like, is this a real shift or just a one-time thing?
Exactly. Is this the start of something new or just a blip on the radar? We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, now I'm even more excited for March 2nd. But until then, any final thoughts for our listeners? Any words of wisdom to leave them with?
Here's something to think about. Pay attention to who's missing from these conversations. The article talked about Gene Hackman's passing.
Yeah.
But what about all the talented people who never even get considered for these awards?
Ooh, that's a good point. We focus so much on the winners.
Right.
But what about the stories that never even get a chance?
Exactly. So as you're watching the Oscars, as you're seeing Cynthia Erivo have her moment, keep that in mind. Hollywood's changing, slowly but surely, but there's still work to do.
You've given us a lot to think about today. I know I'll be watching the Oscars with a whole new perspective. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We'll catch you on the next one.